Thank you, Senator Waters. Senator Hughes.
Thank you, Madam Acting Deputy President. Well, here we go again. The Greens fixated on lots of talk and no action when it comes to the provision of clean energy and the lowering of emissions. The topic of alternative energy through new technology is one that is close to my heart, having dedicated much of my time to the wonderful Hunter region, where traditional mining takes place alongside an area booming with developing new energy sources. On one recent visit, I was able to break ground at the site of a new lithium-ion battery factory, where the technology team of Energy Renaissance is supported by the CSIRO. The Commonwealth Government's first low-emissions technology statement has identified energy storage as a priority technology for Australia to support emission reductions and jobs growth. Affordable and reliable batteries are already becoming a critical element of renewable electricity supply, clean transport and for use in a range of defence applications. Australia is a world leader in the implementation of batteries on the grid, but we're using foreign companies to supply our batteries, making this a future energy security issue. An Australian supply reduces the risk in shipping, transportation and delivery, and provides the Australian government and its key agencies, such as Defence, with a domestic option. China accounts for 62% of the global lithium-ion battery industry. Quite simply, if we want more electric cars and buses and to reduce our emission levels, we're going to need more batteries. Australia is ideally placed to be at the forefront of development and manufacture of these in-demand products. The early establishment of a domestic battery manufacturing industry will value add to critical minerals processed in Australia. According to the Future Batteries industry, there is currently no commercial production of battery-grade materials and chemicals in Australia. However, the wonderful new Energy Renaissance site at Tomago will be the first in Australia with plans to export much of its batteries to Asian markets. On the same day as I broke ground at the Energy Renaissance site, I visited the Bloomfield coal mine at East Maitland, where 600 Australian workers are employed producing some of the highest quality coal in the world. And we won't turn our back on any industry that supports the energy of Australians. And kudos to the Australian Hunter-based company Quarry Mining that's converting its big mining trucks to electric power. There are other local Hunter Valley and Newcastle businesses who are getting on with the innovation and commercialisation that will drive our economic growth and provide renewable sources of power. And these are the sorts of businesses that the Morrison government is backing. The Hunter region is a hotbed of energy innovation. MGA Thermal is a local company using renewable power to heat aluminium bricks during the day and generate steam from them overnight. And the Morrison government has promised to build a gas plant powered specifically to ensure that Hunter businesses and consumers don't suffer the devastating consequences of energy shortages or blackouts. We remain committed to any technology that promises energy reliability and affordable comfort for all Australians. I'm supporting the Hunter in its bid to win the tender to be the first hydrogen hub funded by the Commonwealth. I'm working with local industries, renewable providers and other key institutions to put forward a case to make the Hunter a home for hydrogen development. With hydrogen, we can capitalise on the growing international market for green steel and green aluminium, using the abundance of intermittent renewable energy to generate hydrogen to power these industries. There is no better place than the new hotbed of innovation for such a venture. The fact that it will create more jobs and bring investment to the region is another bonus for Australia. Our government is investing $570 million in hydrogen. Hydrogen can be stored and transported, and it can be 100% cleaner. It's a wonderful source of energy for manufacturing and has the potential to further lower our energy emissions. We will continue to support this sector, which also has the potential to see Australia export hydrogen to other countries. New energy technologies will expand production and increase productivity. Madam Acting Deputy President, we're not resting on our laurels when it comes to alternative energy sources, And we will not rest until Australians and my great friends in the Hunter Valley have guaranteed cheap and secure sources of energy. And it will be done with consideration for Australian businesses and consumers. Prime Minister Scott Morrison has promised that we won't tax our way to zero emissions. We won't put that burden on any Australian, especially our regional Australians. Getting to net zero is all about technology, and our emissions fell by 3% in the year to June 2020, the lowest levels since 1998. That's 17% below 2005 levels, and that's pretty impressive when you consider it. Our Energy Minister, Angus Taylor, has committed to investing $1.9 billion for the development of clean energy. And when it comes to lowering emissions, we have an enviable record that's proving successful and is focused on technology, not taxes. We have a clear plan. We're on track to meet our 2030 target. Labor doesn't even have a 2030 target. And our 2030 target is more ambitious than Norway, Canada, Germany, France and New Zealand. And we want to get to zero emissions as soon as is possible. And we're focused on the how and the breakthroughs in technology that will be needed to reach net zero emissions. Over the past 2 years, our position against our 2030 target has improved by 639 million tonnes. That's the equivalent of taking all of Australia's 14.7 million cars off the road, just wait for it, for 15 years. In 2020, a record 7 gigawatts of new renewable capacity was installed in Australia. That's more renewables in 1 year under the Morrison government than under the whole previous Labor government term. Australia now has the highest amount of solar PV capacity installed per person in the world. And we have the most wind and solar per person of any country outside of Europe. We're adopting renewables in Australia at 10 times the global average, 4 times higher than China, Japan, the US and Europe. And we're doing it without sacrificing jobs and industries in regional Australia for no emissions benefit. Instead, the Morrison government is focused on the how and on the breakthroughs in technology that will be needed to make net zero emissions possible. Investing and supporting renewable technologies will support 130,000 new jobs by 2030 and maintain Australia's position as a world-leading exporter of food, fibre, minerals and energy. In contrast, Labor won't talk about how they would lower emissions because they have no plan to achieve net zero, no plans, not a single policy. They continue to be divided and confused on energy matters which impact everyday Australians. Our government is committed to ensuring a reliable energy supply. And as our Prime Minister announced yesterday, agreements are in place to accelerate major transmission projects in New South Wales and Tasmania, with Victoria and South Australia to follow this year. And we're building Snowy Hydro too. We're rolling out a $200 million program to build new diesel storage facilities. Minister Karen Andrews is investing $1.5 billion in a manufacturing strategy, prioritising critical minerals processing, recycling and clean energy. This is a government committed to technology-driven sources of energy. We need practical and appropriate measures to reduce emissions in a way that supports economic growth. Labor and their Green partners have never committed so much money or support to groundbreaking technology that will enhance our energy development and secure our energy supply. But we are getting on with the job of lowering emissions and creating viable, new, renewable energy industries that will support every Australian.
Thank you, Senator Hughes.